So it's been about a year since I've discussed the car market in its entirety, so let's check on how that's doing. Yup, that looks about right. I'm sorry to disappoint, but car prices aren't dropping anytime soon, not substantially at least. We got a brief glimpse of Hopium at the start of 2025, only to have tariffs crush them into oblivion a year later. We're still just coasting on those same waves. New car prices remain at an all-time high of $50,000, with stable prices month after month, showing no signs of falling significantly anytime soon. So just buy used, right? Except not really, since used cars are averaging between $24,000 to $26,000. That's average price, by the way, as even $5,000 will still buy 30-year-old cars with almost 300k mileage and an interior that's falling apart and AC that probably doesn't even work. Check out my Facebook Marketplace video after this one, because even with a budget of 5 to 10 grand, we were struggling to see anything under 200k mileage. And it still breaks my heart whenever I read comments from that video, because I see a lot of younger enthusiasts say, "Why are you so upset? This is just normal." No, it's not. Us older Gen Z, we got a glimpse of a normally functioning world before the pandemic stole it away from us. While we didn't see $1,000 Crown Vics like millennials did for $5,000 back then, I can't believe it's almost a decade ago since 2017 now. Yeah, I'm actually hitting unk status. I'm straight reminiscing again, bro. I still have those videos up from 2017. That's what $5,000 and $10,000 was buying. It was buying cool ass Mustangs with like 60k mileage still. It was wild, bro. I know, Unk's headed to bed now. I know, I'm going to sleep. I'm taking my meds. Anyways, I don't expect car prices to ever heal to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon. I've definitely just given up on that. But what I'm saying is, like, the least we can ask for, right? It's like a 20% market correction. Please? Just 20% cheaper? Come on, government, give us just somehow, anyone? Regardless, instead of reminiscing on the world we missed out on, let's talk about the world that we are currently in and how we got here to begin with.
Why is this dealer?
So aside from tariffs, another huge issue is rising interest rates from the pandemic onwards that just stayed high. Can you believe car dealers used to give 2 to even 5% interest even to a freshman college student with 600 credit score? I would know, since that's literally my first ever rate on my first car that I bought fully on my own with no cosigner. I was actually ashamed to take 5.3% APR on my Mustang back then, because there were a lot of people with really good credit who can get 0% or 2%. And yeah, 0% APR was like a thing back then. Car loans are also getting longer than ever, moving up from 60 months to now 72 and 84 months. For example, 22% of car buyers are now taking 84-month loans. That's 1 in 5 buyers, more than 1 in 5, taking a 7-year loan on an automobile. And this is even sadder when you look at the statistics and realize that most people don't even keep their cars that long, since most people are now keeping cars as little as 5 to 8 years, which means, considering their loan durations, they're essentially trapping themselves in a negative equity loop.
More than 25% of all trade-ins now carry negative equity of $10,000 or more, with roughly 31% of all drivers currently underwater on their vehicle. Instead of settling that debt, dealerships frequently roll the remaining balance into the next loan, stacking the unpaid portion of the previous vehicle onto another rapidly depreciating asset, and trapping borrowers in loans that will far outlast the financial life of the car itself.
The worst part is, despite 65% of buyers thinking car dealerships are scams and that they use unethical business practices, we are still mandated by law to go through them. And since buying direct from a manufacturer isn't allowed, that means we don't have access to a true free market, since car dealers basically are acting as legally sanctioned scalpers who can gatekeep car prices to their desire. Believe me when I say this, you do not hate scalpers enough, but you can hear me rant more about that in my scalper epidemic video, which you can check out later. However, if you're enjoying this current video, or realistically you're suffering because nothing I'm talking about in this video is enjoyable, but you get the point, subscribe for more weekly doom posts with the occasional Hopium jump scare. Anyways, back to the topic. So when you combine tariffs, rising interest rates, longer loan periods, all controlled by banks and car dealers, dealers that are working together to drive up car prices and scalp the supply chain from the manufacturers, you get the situation we're currently in and the realization that car prices really aren't going to go down anytime soon. Even if tariffs disappear tomorrow, car prices were already screwed by a giant combination of all these factors. And it's gonna have to be a systematic reduction of every single one of these factors to a certain degree to even get that 20% car price reduction that I'm wanting. However, regarding scalping specifically and high prices specifically, we gotta be real. It only works if there are still people stupid enough to buy, because a functioning economy relies on supply and demand. If there was no demand, for example, if car dealers listed things at 50 grand and no one was actually buying at 50 grand, then the average price wouldn't be 50 grand, it would have dropped to match the actual demand. But the fact that the average price is staying at 50 grand, well, that means we got a lot of dum-dums who are buying cars at stupid prices and stupid rates, thus rewarding these dealers who scalp and mark up said prices, which thus keeps prices high for the rest of us.
2025 BMW M2 and I paid $1,500 a month.
So many other content creators probably already yapped about tariffs, interest rates, and so on, but something that isn't talked about enough but is a huge driver in keeping this car price hell machine going is clout buyers and entitled drivers who want to buy a car with a payment that is way higher than they can afford for a job that really doesn't even need a car that nice. I'm not even making this up, y'all.
$12.50
an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, that must be too early in the morning. You say $12.50, you make $2,000 a month.
How much?
You looking at a $1,600 payment. You good with that?
How much?
$1,600.
You can't do nothing.
I'm trying. I got an approval right here for you.
As I mentioned last chapter, pricing something high only works if someone is still stupid enough to buy it high. I hate to say it, but just like how drivers have been getting dumber and angrier over the years, car buyers are also insanely guilty of becoming dumber as well, since financial literacy is becoming a rapidly lost art. I watched Hicks react to my Brokey Epidemic video and he was like, no way people actually loan cars at credit card interest rates.
This is not happening. Nobody's financing a car at credit card APRs. No one's doing that. There's not. I hope, right? That's not actually happening. Is anybody actually paying that much? Fuck, this is what I mean. There's got to be at least a few people, right, who are.
$100,000 over sticker for a Dodge.
I paid $265,000 for that car.
65, you said?
No, 200. That's 100,000 over sticker price.
Trying to sell us his 2023. What is it called?
A Dodge Demon.
A Dodge Challenger.
Oh, sweet naivety. I too once believed people weren't actually signing off on car loans with 16% interest or, heaven forbid, 20 or even 29% APR. But here we are. From Altimas to Jeeps, from G80s to G-Wagons, more people than you'd think, it might even be your coworker, friend, or colleague, are signing off on these insane interest rates.
At 29% interest rate, 29. That's like insane. And the car in tippity-toppity condition at the top. You're upside down, dude.
Bad credit, no credit, challenge credit. Here's a 2019 Maserati Ghibli. You'd look so rich. Oh man, you're driving around in a Maserati. Clearly the worst depreciating and reliable vehicle of any luxury brand right now. But again, just playing on today's society where everybody wants to look like they have a ton of money when most of us just don't.
And this is all because they want to keep up with each other in terms of image. Non-car people are doing this, by the way. Like, to be fair, the internet has absolutely destroyed our perception of everything and is 100% for blame for this one, right?
How the can these 20-year-old kids afford these cars? Or is something else going on?
30 years ago, if you really think about it, if you bought a car, you really only could brag about it to your neighbor, your family, your close friends, and maybe your church group. That was kind of it. You also had no idea what other people in other cities were doing, so a lot of small town people didn't care for sports cars, much less supercars, which is why it was really common for tuners in the 80s and 90s to just work with what they have. It's why we have 90s legends like 1,000 horsepower Toyota Supras, Nissan Skylines, Mustang Fox bodies, and all that to begin with, because people back then really did just mod whatever car they had just for the love of the game, you know? Unfortunately, the internet now lets people post their car to thousands, tens of thousands, and even millions of people to see online. Another unfortunate aspect is that our monkey brains love to compare ourselves to others. I'm not above this either. It's a toxic trap that can mistakenly make people feel behind and thus do irrational decisions to try to keep up. There's actually a term for this behavior. It's called conspicuous spending, which was defined in 1899, and it's the act of purchasing luxury goods to publicly display wealth. And you and I aren't just imagining it. Since post-internet era, statistics have confirmed that conspicuous spending is absolutely on the rise, and it correlates with social media almost perfectly, especially amongst Gen Z and millennials, with almost half of us partaking in spending more on things we don't need, all to impress strangers online. To peel back the curtain a bit, a lot of car content creators can't actually afford the things they pretend to buy or show off to their audience. As Doug DeMuro and many other car content creators have exposed recently on several podcasts, a lot of car influencers are actually deep in debt.
Where I'm driving a Bugatti Veyron and I have less than $1,000 in my bank account. Literally.
Welcome to Hoovie's Garage, the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube.
So do you think then your viewers like seeing you in financial distress?
Yes. To the source.
So with leases, there's two different leases you get into. There's open and closed-end leases, right? Okay. A lot of the time, you go to a dealership and they offer you these lease programs for these brand new cars. That's a rental. They say you can rent this car for only $1,050 per 30 minutes. This car costs about $2,010 an hour.
Paying by the hour? That's more than enough for someone just driving around and making a social media post. So be mindful of what you see on social media, because it might not always be the truth. It definitely reminds me of how there's a huge fake rich industry for renting out like fake private jets that aren't even a jet. It's like a set, like a studio that people pretend to sit in.
Some guy built a fake interior of a private jet in Los Angeles. They used like a movie set. They just rent it out to influencers so that they can take photos where it looks like they're on a private jet, but they're not.
Like, first off, I'm going to say this. I respect the hustle. No hate to any of these rental agencies or content creators, and especially not Hoovie. I deeply respect his financial honesty, and it sounds like he went through a lot and definitely felt like the internet was trying to make a fool of him, and he felt like he had to play the jester to entertain people. I appreciate that message. He's a cool guy, love his content, and wish the best for him. Keep in mind, these are the people on the top. Like, Tyler Hoovie is not a small channel by any metric. There are channels a fraction of his size trying to keep up with the Joneses, getting pulled down like crabs in a bucket because they feel the need to go upside down on all these loans to try to impress people online and constantly change cars to keep up with other influencers who also constantly change cars. And that's why some of them started playing unfair and said, you know what, I'm not even gonna buy cars anymore. I'm gonna do these special short-term rental agreements, even if it costs thousands of dollars an hour, because within that hour I can record that car, stretch it out over several days or months even. I would say it doesn't take a genius to realize that, but unfortunately these days I think it might, because a lot more people than you would like online are falling for these, which is why I definitely want to say shout out to all the new subscribers who don't care about what freaking vehicle content creators own, and also don't determine credibility based on someone having 10 Lambos in the garage, since nowadays most people who flex supercars online are usually just trying to rug pull a crypto. I used to get made fun of for having a broke boy Corvette amongst the car content creator community, but nowadays I literally feel like Luigi since I just won by doing nothing. I just kept my car. It warms my heart seeing newer comments say, yo, I aspire to keep the same car for several years like you do. It's refreshing in this day and age. And crazy part is, I'm just doing what most of our parents did before us, which was just keep a car for like 7 to 10 years. So 9 years for the Mustang. It's almost about to be 10 years on this channel with that car. I just don't care about changing cars every few months to a couple of years. We used to say comparing online isn't fair since the internet is a highlight reel of someone's best moments in life. But I'm gonna be brutally honest, chances are what you see online nowadays isn't even the best of someone's life anymore. It's just loaned money from a bank, rented supercars from an agency, or tons and tons of credit card debt, which brings us to the final chapter. Want to know if someone is a real car guy?
You're trying to figure out if someone's a real or fake car enthusiast? Ask them how they feel about the Honda Fit. That's all you need to do.
He's not wrong though. Long before flex culture, Being a car guy just meant working with what you had, modding it, and then loving the drive. I've repeated that like 3 times already. I'm so sorry. I may have been rude to Forza playing 12-year-olds during the start of my career, and I'm gonna do it again when Forza Horizon 6 comes out. You ain't stopping me. But the one thing I've always been consistent on is that I consider anyone who does own a car, who is then enthusiastic about cars, a car enthusiast, especially in this economy where just owning any kind of car is a huge barrier of entry. And honestly, if you love cars, congratulations, you're a car guy, all right? One of my earliest types of car guy videos has many archetypes dedicated to grocery getters, sleeper cars, grandma's inheritance, and other, normal or cheap looking cars that are ultimately still cool cars. You do not need to be pressured to have a expensive car to fit into the car community. The only gatekeeping we need is stopping this takeover, swimmer, and clown behavior where we have these clout chasers trying to get attention and shutting down meets. And having said that, it's still going to be hard owning a cheaper vehicle in today's world, especially with today's internet landscape, since most modern car enthusiasts aren't as benign as the ones I grew up with in my era. But just filter through the crowd of hate and find out what's really the truth. Wait. Okay, hold on. This is bladed in post. I just gotta say this. The Ford Taurus SHO and like the Lincoln LS, these are like $5,000. Ford Taurus SHO makes 365 horsepower, 350 torque, twin turbo V6 3.5 liter all-wheel drive. Like, I hope this is a good lesson to learn here. You don't gotta be loaning stupid money when you can just look in the right places. I might make another Facebook Marketplace video looking for hidden gems like this because I do want more car enthusiasts to get a hold of cars like this for these cheap prices. This is what keeps the community going. There are people who are paying way more for Civics and Camrys of equivalent year with even more mileage than they are for this SHO, and I'll be brutally honest with you, as a fellow car enthusiast, I would take the SHO. It's really not that much more unreliable than the Civic, and they're both 15-year cars at this point. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, nothing's gonna be perfectly reliable at that age. I'd rather just enjoy myself a bit, especially when it's only like 5, 6, 7 grand. Like, holy crap, this car can break 3 times over and I would still be having more fun than the Civic. Like, I'll be brutally honest, no hate to the 2010 era Civic Si. That's a cool car, but like, bang for buck, this SHO is an insane car compared to that. What bugs me the most though is even non-car people are becoming super judgmental about cars now, and somehow they're 10 times more vicious than any car enthusiasts are, even the toxic ones, especially when it comes to brands and price and car ownership in general. Damon Cassidy in his video ranted about this towards the end. He shares a personal story about how he used to essentially drive a beater car that was his daily and people would laugh at him.
When I was, and basically since I started driving at 17, I have been made fun of for the car I've had the entire time. My first car was a 1999 Crown Victoria with a police interceptor package. So I got made fun of so much that it really imprinted something in my mind, especially being young. It was like, even though I was raised differently, I kept saying, I need to get a new car. I'm worthless, or I'm all these things. You attach yourself to material items so quickly. That's American culture for you. So I remember whenever I graduated, I got a job working as a teller at the local bank at 18. I got made fun of 10 times worse at the bank than I did in high school by adults. I was 20 years younger than the next youngest person.
His colleagues laughed at him for his cheaper car, and he felt pressured to want to own a better car as a result. And this breaks my heart, since these aren't even car enthusiasts, and he's not even a car enthusiast, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. Why do they care that much about his car? And even if you are a car enthusiast, why is someone else's car even your business? Like, I still can't get over non-car enthusiasts nowadays dropping 100 grand on brand new trucks and SUVs like it's a normal thing to do. The epitome of this video title, because these aren't even luxury brands either, or high-end performers. Like, these aren't entry-level supercars. This is like a Ford, right? Or a GM, right? It's just crazy that we have these MFs with the audacity to brag about their 100 grand SUV, knowing full well it's not even their money. I'm tired of people flexing the bank's car, then saying, you can't criticize me on how I spend my money. It's my money. I can do what I want with it, except it's not actually their money, especially if it's 16.99% APR for 84 months. But anger aside, a more wholesome note I want all beater car owners to hear. People with beater cars are seen as some of the coolest MFs in the car community. There's a whole genre to owning cheap cars, beater cars, and salvage rebuilds on the car side of the internet. And the reason we like them is because every mature car enthusiast, I should say, not like the clout ones, we understand the point of a cheap car. It is meant to be a mileage muncher, an MPG saver, a car that you don't really care if it gets a door ding or gets hailed on. The point is, this is your daily driver that you take out most times, and by the way, it always has a place in your garage, so don't listen to people, especially non-car enthusiasts, who try to convince you to trade in your cheap 20-plus-year-old beater car for something better, since as someone who owns better, I promise you, you still want to keep the cheap one around. It's pretty well known amongst car enthusiasts that most beater cars can secretly be a supercar owner who just doesn't want to put wear and tear mileage on their Ferrari or Koenigsegg. As a result, we don't laugh at them. We don't know what else they have, and again, it's not our business. If they love cars, let them enjoy their car, no matter how cheap it is. And by the way, a cheap mileage muncher doesn't even have to be a beater car either. Mine is a post-World War II era styled bike that has one freaking cylinder. Yup, forget V8s, V6s, inline 4s, parallel twins. Nah, this one literally just has one cylinder in a dream. It gets 100 miles per gallon, and it uses tires that barely cost more than a bicycle. That's my daily. It's a Royal freaking Enfield, and to be fair, the majority of the world also uses one too. It's one of the most popular vehicles sold, numbering well into the tens of millions. Contrary to what American bike talk would have you think, there are more than just two kinds of motorcycles. They don't have to be speedy crotch rockets with an 11 times higher fatality rate, nor do they have to be these super mega heavy, super loud Harley Davidsons. You can just buy a commuter motorcycle like an Enfield or a CB Highness. They exist. The reality is, I love this commuter bike, and with commuter bikes, they don't have to be the most expensive, the most flashy, the loudest, or the fastest, but they will make you feel the happiest. So whether you choose a beater car or a commuter bike, ignore others and understand yourself and your own decisions. Be happy because you own it, not the bank, and not like the others who pretend to own theirs. Do not buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like, who don't even like us back as well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Like this video if you love beater cars and share it to your friends with loaned cars to rage bait them. Subscribe for more weekly situations, updates, and epidemic slop, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Bladed Angel out.